Awesome. So I'm Karolina, and I recently changed industries from healthcare to mobility, and I'm responsible for digitalization. I work as a CDO and head of strategy at Siemens Mobility in Spain.
My name is Juan Vicen, and I am co-founder and chief of communications at Zeleros, the Spanish company developing a disruptive Hyperloop system.
Who in this room does not know what a Hyperloop is? Max? No. Oh, I got one. There's one in the back. Okay, so you don't have to define. You don't have to tell us what a Hyperloop is. Thank you. However, I would like to know what each of you would define is public, collective, communal transportation. Because we just blindly, go from point A to point B when we're going to work. But I'd like to hear how you define what is public transportation before we begin.
Okay, well, it's a difficult question, but basically moving people from one place to another in the most efficient way. As we see, transport is not only as a one way of transportation. There are many ways of transportation right now. We can see them on the streets already. There will be much more coming in the future, such as Hyperloop. And what we have to be is very sure about how we combine all these means of transport in one, putting the passenger on the top part, on the top side, and understanding our needs, so all the transport system works for us and not all independent, but in an inefficient way.
Right. So as humans, right, and I'm sometimes commenting it because I'm a psychologist, like we are super predictable. Like, that's why there are traffic jams, because we all want to go at the same place to the same at the same time. And I think that this is why we have public transport, because we have very similar needs. We want to go to the same places, or we live, or we work, we like the same parks, and so on. So basically, I strongly believe that although we have a lot of, and we are speaking a lot about innovation in individual transportation, but there will be also like a lot of innovation in a public transport, right? The thing is that we need to make the public transport in the future not only innovative, efficient, and so on, but like also to give the same comfort that the people will feel comfortable leaving the car behind and switching, for example, to a Hyperloop or to a metro.
Thank you, Karolina. From the two of you, I'm hearing user experience, comfort. Are these things that are actually possible, either via design or in general the experience of making this transportation mode actually comfortable from both A to B, but also the actual construction and implementation on a bigger scale?
Yeah.
Do you see that coming?
Well, we will live in a higher scale. It's important to have to have all transport systems into multimodal stations, because what can happen now is that you take the Hyperloop from Madrid to Paris, for example. And then once you get there, you want to go to the next to your final destination. So you need to have kind of stations or hubs where these different kinds of transport get together and are connected, so people can have this transition as smooth as possible.
Yeah. So right now, like if you think about like your experience, right? It's very like some of you is into music, right? It's very staccato. Yeah, right. I mean, like you have different cards, different machines, and you need to recognize, like especially in Spain, right? Like what kind of machine you're using. Is it like cercanías, or is it Renfe, and so on. I mean, it's not really smooth experience, no? It's not really taking you from A to B and so on. So I believe that like passenger experience has been so far very much neglected, also because we have like in many industries, we have like a kind of monopoly, no? Like because it's also strongly regulated. So nobody really cared so much how much do you enjoy this trip. So we recently announced internally a competition of like encouraging employees to think like what we can do as a company to improve passenger experience. And it was like, I was amazed, right? That like within like 7 days we had like 50 ideas. of like what can be done, because these are the employees that are using public transport on an everyday, and they are like not inventing problems that we can solve. They're really experiencing these problems like every day.
But not just experiencing them and complaining, like some of us.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Parisians.
We are like privileged, no? Like that we can fall in love with a problem because we know we can solve it.
Wow. Well, I like the confidence, Karolina. I heard you also mention regulation a little bit. And when anyone sees future or public transportation, like it feels like regulation is clearly very linked and or married to that concept. However, here we are on the outside looking at this explosion of a new way of moving. But how do you move in a new way through the government system, like through roadblock, bureaucracy? I'm really just curious to hear, like, if you're in the beginning process of that, close to the end.
This is an interesting question from the startup point of view, because we always have like some new idea, and you face the reality. No, reality is that the world is not prepared for what you are developing. So from our side, what we started doing is to involve the government as soon as possible at both local, regional, national, and international level, so we can start working with them, maybe at a very basic level, but so they can be prepared for what is coming, because otherwise they can just find that, for example, there are shared bikes going on the streets, and there is no regulation for these shared bikes. Where we put the bikes? Should there be a station? We believe it's very important to start from the beginning talking to them, and that they show also that that new solutions are not something dangerous, that something they should embrace. No?
Right, and I think that like also regulators are now recognizing that they need to improve digital literacy, understanding of innovation, and so on, because otherwise they will be considered as roadblocks, right? And I think so from healthcare, I could just like see that FDA has been also considered as a roadblock until they understood it, and they started also building the digital expertise, and like they had a dedicated team working on innovation in order to understand it quicker, and not like to see something like shockingly innovative
and then it's too late.
Yeah, and then it's too late, right? But it's a process, no? Like I think that like the recent cases of cities in Spain that are blocking or like restricting usage of Uber and Cabify, or for example, all the examples that we need to take seriously, no? That in the transformation, everybody has to change, and regulators as well. And I think that probably this change is probably quicker on our side in the private sector than it's probably in the public sector. So now we have like a kind of this clash because of we are changing in a different pace.
I agree with you, but just because I'm from the startup side of things, so I couldn't, and no offense to anybody who is in the, unless it's not just roadblocks. They are doing great things.
But perhaps I will share one example, because recently I've been moderating a panel, and I had someone from City of London. And City of London, for example, they are already working with startups. So as they consider themselves like as slow as corporates, which is a kind of offense for me, right? I always thought that I'm quicker than regulatory bodies and cities, no? But like, and they also like already having their own accelerator, and they are co-creating solutions and so on. And they see, okay, that it is really difficult. So like even as a moderator, I had to send the agenda a few times because the firewall of the City of London was so massive that like my email never went through, right? So okay, there are some difficulties, yeah, but they are definitely already working with startups already at the early stage.
And I can't even begin to imagine how the process of funneling, sourcing, scouting, and then activating those projects. But it's really exciting to hear that from this corporate standpoint of Siemens Mobility Group, that you can enter into not just moderating a panel, but like enter into kind of these exchanges because of learning from them, and obviously you're the one inspiring them. Not you.
Exactly. I think it's an ecosystem. No, I think that like the future of mobility, it's not Siemens Mobility that it's going as a lone player, shape it. And it's not going to be Zeleros, no? Like it will be combination of private, public, individual, and collective transportation. Yeah.
Oh, you just did the punchline, because what I was going to ask is, do you see the chance for blend? Like, is there any overlap or blending of these platforms, or are we too early to know how that may or may not roll? And you can say I plead the fifth.
Yeah, regarding what you said, I think it's very important, like this collaboration between corporates and also startups, because that helps to bring what governments need, like the confidence that governments need to take on next steps. Because sometimes if you are only a startup and you call a government, the first day they think it's okay, maybe the product is not ready, and then it can be a failure, and the risk is quite high. But then when they say that there is an ecosystem, there is several key companies involved in this change, it can make everything much smoother. And we believe this is one of the keys that can drive innovation forward.
Yeah, and I think that like with platform right now, every single company is claiming to be the preferred platform provider, right? Yeah, because like we hear a lot of examples. You need to have a platform to be successful and so on. So that's why everybody is like building a platform. If it's a startup or corporate, like everybody, like cities. At the end of the day, the platform will win that has the biggest benefits. And that's something that I am very liberal with my opinions, but I believe that like the market will at the end of the day regulate it. No, like I don't know, like for those from Germany, perhaps they know like StudiVZ, which was like a kind of like a Facebook, right? But like, and everybody just like step out of it once Facebook appeared, no? Which was yet another platform, but like you just like you switch the platform. So we already switched several platforms in our life, no? If you think about, if there was something in France, yeah, exactly, MySpace, yeah, exactly. We already changed platforms, and I think even if we are now signing up for one platform, it doesn't mean we will stick with this platform forever.
I was going to say, if we don't test and prototype, we'll never actually go forward. And you're testing and prototyping right now?
It happens also with hardware, no? Because we always think about platforms as software, but in our case, we have actually a huge tube that will be going from one place to another. So we need to be very sure that the tube we are doing is the most optimal one.
That's your only option.
Yeah, that's
not
the
we
only
would like
option.
to be sure.
That's something that the European Union already stated. So you need to stay in contact with the other players. So there is one tube. We don't want, like in the rail, different rail gauges and different levels that cannot interconnect between cities.
Or it's leaky.
So in the end, you need to be ready to collaborate and cooperate, creating new markets. And I think that's also something we are learning about other ecosystems like drones, for example. They create their own societies that keep pushing until they get the standards and the regulations going.
And when does the kind of, not ethical, but are there collaboration like communities, as you just said, that spring up around the subject of, is this fair? Like, will this be fair? Will this be actually affordable for all populations? Or because it's Hyperloop, because it's brand new, well, everybody, you might want to wait, it's going to be very expensive to ride.
Yeah, there are different approaches for the Hyperloop. And in our case, what we try to do is to get the cost of infrastructure as low as possible. This is something that is basically because we need to have a mass transit system. We don't need a very, we believe society won't accept a system that is not like that. So that's why you need to take into account that if you want to make a successful project, you need to do it as cost effective as possible, because otherwise it won't fit, basically. So the path to success is very, very, very long, in this case, in the case of a new transport system. So you need to be very careful about what you are developing.
Yeah, and I think in the future also other aspects will play a role, right? Also your carbon footprint. Like not only the price, but right now, of course, you can fly super cheap nowadays. But
She's
like,
looking at a room full of travelers.
yeah, exactly.
Who all
And
travel to be
and
here.
I am also traveling, and perhaps we are like the last generation that is like traveling so extensively with just like machines that are like polluting our planet. I think that like we got used to a lifestyle which is absolutely not sustainable, no? So I think that like in the future we will be like also selecting something that, what you said, like a society will not accept something which is like unaffordable, but like I hope that in the future, and that's why like we have the strikes of students, no? Like I mean, like I have my full hope in the future generation that they will also not accept something which is not good for the environment.
And does that make Hyperloop the easiest sell ever?
Yeah, well, this is a difficult sell, but you, well, as from the beginning we are already thinking about that. So that's a good thing. The new generations are already with this mindset. So we believe we need to do things sustainable in all the aspects, no? On the environment part, on the economic side, and also on the societal part of it, no? So in the end, if you want to do something that is successful, it needs to fulfill this. So in our case, we are trying. Of course, it's difficult, but yeah, otherwise we wouldn't get involved in these things. Yeah, we like challenges.